It seems like I'm talking to the press a lot here in the last week. So practice, we're in our third practice. I think it's going well. I think the key thing is what kind of retention we have. I mentioned it the other day. Want to stay safe, want to see what kind of retention we have. Obviously, want to get better with techniques and fundamentals, just sort of get back into that aspect of it. And then we want to really find out what our younger players can do. So we've tried to push the envelope there a little bit with some of our younger players. But, you know, really we're 2 days of shorts in and we're 1 day of shells in. So there's not a lot of information, you know, until you get into that padded practice and those type of things. But I'll take some questions and then we'll sort of go from there. Came from the field. Questions? I may rush out of here.
I'll start it. Mark, a year ago at this time, you guys came into a season with a lot of high expectations. You guys fell hard. Was it a humbling thing for you guys? And if so, again, does it help the program and you as a coach to try and learn from what happened a year ago?
Well, first of all, I think that we were 7-6 football team, so you know, when you say fall hard, to me falling hard is losing by a lot of points in a lot of games. You know, we lost by inches. So, you know, when we lose at Michigan 12-10 and we come back and bounce back and win at Wisconsin, it shows you that we have resiliency on our football team, and it shows you we can just stay after it, and I think that's a good thing. But our expectations were higher. There's no question about that. We're higher as a program, but you know, you sort of play the cards as they go, as you flop them down throughout the year. I was very proud of our football team, but I do think we had to take a step back, reevaluate who we are, what inches we came up short on, and then make the move back into transition back forward. And I think that's what we've done. Remains to be seen, 2013, but I feel very, very good about the chemistry of our team. I always have. We've got to make plays on the field, got to make good coaching decisions, got to stay healthy. All those things factor into success, I think, and you got to get on a roll a little bit too. But I don't know if I'm answering the question, but excited about this season, very excited about the season, very excited about the attitude of our players. And you know, collectively this year we have 18 seniors, whereas last year we had 9. Most of those seniors are players, you know, are playing regularly for our football team, and they're sort of established players on our team in terms of leadership too. And I think the more leadership you have, the better it's going to be, and you just sort of grow from that.
Can it help a program, though, to go through what you guys did?
Oh, yeah.
It's very hard for a program trying to establish itself like you guys have been, and if people are expecting big things from you and it doesn't happen, it can help you try to go forward.
Yeah, I think adversity is always going to help all of us. You know, when you don't write that great story, you know, and you get ripped for it, then you bounce back a little bit. But I think it's the same on the field. You know, you've always got to take everything that you've experienced, whether it's positive, negative, or in between, and you've got to try and build on that. And that's why experiences are so important in this game. We just talked about discipline today, you know, being a fundamental, and we try and hit a particular fundamental every day. And, you know, discipline is when everything, to me, falls down around you and you're in the heat of the moment and emotions are very high. Can you sustain? Can you have an attention to detail at that point in time? And that's what we have to do. We came into the last season with a very limited amount of experience on offense, at the quarterback position, at the wide receiver position. We got some guys hurt on the offensive line early on. We came in with an experienced defense, and it showed. So, you know, we just need to pick all the pieces up, put them back in the puzzle, and move forward. And I think that's what we're doing. And, you know, as I said earlier, you know, my MO is, you know, you got to chase those things down right now. So we'll chase it. And we've had 2 great practices in terms of enthusiasm. It's not a perfect practice. They never are. Not when you're playing against each other. It's never perfect because there's always going to be sort of a winner and a loser there.
You've talked about retention, trying to see how much they have retained. 3 practices in, are you happy with the amount of retention that you see? And then follow.
Yeah, you know, we really have a lot of things in. We've really put a lot of our offense, a lot of our defense in. We just sort of thrown it at them, multitude of offense and defense, which is tough for the freshmen. But we want to try and get everything in the first 5 or 6 practices so we can scrimmage on Saturday with a full dynamic of who we are a little bit offensively and defensively and special teams. So there's a lot of football being thrown at them. You know, it's 15 hours a day of football right now. So in between that, you got media day, you got to you got some different things that you've got to get done as well. So it's a busy time, but I'm very, very pleased with the retention. Our players know what they're doing. Our receivers, the first 3 running backs, our quarterbacks, first 3 quarterbacks, the experienced players have great retention.
When you're overwatching the offensive line and Coach Bowman specifically this year, what are you seeing differently from maybe you didn't see in the past?
Well, when I'm over there, I'm just watching technique and watching how they fit up in there. I'm not going to sit there and say that Bowles is coaching them any better. I think Coach Rochard did an outstanding job coaching our guys as well. So, it's just change. There's change, and you always look for change, a little bit of change, little subtle changes as you move forward, relative to hand placement or things of that nature. And sometimes change is good. When you have the opportunity to change, or when you're forced to change, you hope that change becomes something good for us. And I'm very excited about our 2 new staff members.
Mark, you said an early wake-up call for your team on Saturday, and then you said, eat the frog.
Oh, yeah.
Now, at first, that reminded me of the alligator that somebody wrestled at your Outback Bowl practice 2 years ago. But in regards to this camp, what does it mean to eat the frog?
Well, I got a book from a friend of mine, and I think the title of it was, I want to say this right, you can't bring a duck to Eagle School. Okay? So in this, and there's just a lot of little stories in there about successful people, and one of them talked about eating the frog. And what that meant was that whatever you do, whatever your big rocks are in your day, your big things that you want to do in your day, get it done first. Get the big things out of the way first, and allow the day to move forward from there. So we've sort of changed up some of the things that we're doing in terms of when we're practicing or what we're doing or our meeting times, just to sort of make sure the emphasis, the freshness, when are you most fresh, when are you not tired, is going to happen at this point in time during the day, and then we're going to take advantage of that. So it just seemed like the right thing to say at the time. I don't know if it was or not, but. I'm sorry? No, I never have. Thought about it when I was down in Texas this last Tuesday, but I stayed away from it.
Coach, you put your corners out on an island, and you've talked about how much you like Trey Waynes. Could you specifically talk about his skill set and his approach of what you like about him?
Yeah, Trey Wayne came here. He was a safety in high school, but he was a sprinter, a 100-meter guy. He's had great speed, I think 10.6, 100-meter guy. He's gotten taller. He's got very long arms. And really the thing to watch that we waited for was for him to sort of move forward. His first year, little bit transition issues in terms of transitioning to corner, and just having that attention to detail and that sense of urgency maybe at corner that you have to have. Last year he played as a backup pretty much for Johnny Adams, had the opportunity in the bowl game to start and play most of the game, and did a tremendous job, and he had an outstanding spring. He's long, he's got tremendous ball skills, he's got skills that could be a receiver. I'm not going to say who the fastest guy is on our team, but he's in there. He's in the 4.3s consistently, which is, I'm almost trying to slow the clock down on him. But he is fast, he can jump. He's a 37-inch vertical jump guy, so he's got a lot of skills. What he needs is experience. What he needs to be able to do is take those habits that he's developing now and take them onto the field and be successful. But really like where he's at, and I think he'll have a breakout season for us.
Coach, when you talk about the inches from last year, how do you get the inches to go your way this season?
I think the first thing you got to do is believe that they're going to come our way and be confident. Make sure that we're confident in what we're doing. Make sure that we use our adrenaline and our emotion, our enthusiasm to carry us through. Momentum a lot of times carries you through sometimes. But we're just trying to find them everywhere, and that's sort of the things we've talked about. You got to find them in the film room. You got to find them in your coaching technique. You got to find them in your individual technique. You got to find them in your play calling. You got to find them in the execution or in your toughness. There's so many different places, I think, that you can look for those inches and you can find them. And really, that's the difference. That was the difference last year. Really, the difference is, does Michigan get a first down when Denard goes like this with the ball, or doesn't he? Is Le'Veon Bell over the goal line against Northwestern by that, or is he not? And on it goes. They're just all around. So we have to come up with those inches where we fell short. That's pure and simple. You know, the Nebraska play or whatever, it's just little things. You know, it's 31-17 if we don't have a penalty on us. Just little things. So we're right there. We just need to find them and keep moving forward and continue to be resilient and be positive with our players.
Mark, a couple days into practice, you talk about the retention. Having the new coordinators, does that make the retention different for these guys coming in this year, having some tweaks in the spring, or is it still a pretty good base from what's been done previously?
Well, there's always a great base when you have a foundation of where to grow with. And we have a foundation in terms of terminology, play calling, alignments, things of that nature. And then we have some new things that we've subtly involved with our offense as well. And, you know, we've repped some of those things in the spring. We continue to work on those things, but, you know, there are cut-ups of them. There are different teaching tapes of those. So I think that the consistency in the teaching is very, very good. So retention is there. A lot of it is the foundation, terminology, players being in a system. Players can adapt. When you've been in, you know, a player, whether it's Connor Cook or Maxwell, you know, they've been in the program for 3 and 5 years. You know, they're used to change a little bit and they can adapt. So if you have experienced players like Max Bulla, he can adapt very easily, as long as the terminology stays the same and the teaching progression stays the same. He can adapt subtly to. And I think the biggest thing is you want to continue to be simple as a football team. You have to be, but comprehensive, where you cover all different things and all different angles and all different issues, whether it's situations or types of concepts, are all covered.
Mark, over here, just wondering how you've divided the reps at quarterback so far, and what's your plan for that? I mean, does everyone get first team looks? Are you mostly Cook and Maxwell trying to split them up? How have you and how are you going to do that?
Well, it's you know, we're into our third. We're just finished our third practice. What we've done so far is getting those 3 guys the majority of the reps, with Maxwell and Cook sort of taking 1s and 2s a little bit. We have worked Damian Terry in there a little bit because I think it's important that we see what our freshmen can do. We've had our freshman tailbacks run with the 1s a couple times today, you know, so they've got a couple reps with the 1s. It's very important that we see what they can do and how they do it for the learning curve. But a lot to think about at quarterback, so you've got to sort of take that a little bit slower maybe, because, you know, not only does he have to execute the play called, he has to have rhythm in his throws, and, you know, he can't forget what got him there. And sometimes I think as a young player you forget what got you to this level. It's playing with power. It's throwing the ball with power. It's bending your knees and doing the different things you have to do. And sometimes, you know, the game speeds up on you, and you got to slow it back down. So there's you know, we got 29 practices, 28 before our first game, so we'll be ready.
Was the offense last year, every time it started to get a rhythm, you had another offensive lineman go down, was part of the reason they struggled last year was just because of the constant injuries at offensive line?
Well, we had injuries, and so, you know, we had Skylar Berkland, who had a hand infection, and he misses all the summer camp. Then he comes back, and he's practicing on Tuesday, and Foe gets hurt on Thursday, and he starts against Notre Dame. You know, you have situations like that. You have a situation where Jack Allen is playing, ends up as our center, redshirt center, but he has to play guard because Blake's out, Blake Treadwell's out, and then Travis goes down, and he's still playing guard, and then we make the transition to center. I think the Michigan game full time, and when we get Blake back. So yeah, there's some things like that, but I'm not going to. You know, we have to play football, and there are no excuses. There are no excuses. We just got to get ready to play. Everybody's got injuries. You got to prepare yourself for injuries, and you have to have a plan of how you're going to address things when people go down. I mean, it's just the nature of it. It's going to happen.
Mark, a year ago, this was kind of Andrew Maxwell's team, at least his offense. Has that changed? I know he's the starter, but is it accurate to say the margin of error is narrower or the leash is shorter, or how would you term that?
I wouldn't term it the leash is shorter. I just think that we need to prepare another player to play. If he's capable of playing to a level of winning football, then that's going to happen. I do think it's important we give two quarterbacks the opportunity to play early in the season, because I didn't like the way Andrew had to come in with no experience and perform. And we're going to see how it all shakes out. But what happens out on the field, our players understand we're going to do the very best we can to play the best player that gives us the best chance to win. So he's got to perform. The others have to perform. I was impressed with O'Connor in the first two practices, threw the ball very well. He's a lot farther along than he was last year when he was a true freshman. And so all three of those guys look good. You know, Damien's behind the curve there a little bit, but you know, you're 3 practices in. And keep in mind, you're putting in 5 or 6 or 7 or 10 different things every day. So those things just add up on you very, very quickly when you're a young player, offensively and defensively.
Mark, back here, I'm going to surprise you and ask about quarterbacks here, but when you think back to Connor Cook, his first spring here, had to play both ways that game. How much has he grown? I mean, the playing time's been a little bit limited, but where have you seen him grow the most in that time since then?
I think what I'm seeing Connor do well is create, and he's got I think in the pocket he's got a little bit of maturity in the pocket, and he's composed. He's more composed in the pocket. And, you know, obviously you have to make the plays, and like I said, we're one day into shells, so, and shorts is shorts. So it's very different in shorts. But, you know, as we get through this week and into next week, these first 2 weeks are key, because after 2 weeks you really cut everything down and start focusing on who we're going to play. So, but like I said, you know, we spend 15 hours a day. These days sort of go by slowly. So there's a lot of football every day that is evaluated, looked at, and, you know, they have to respond. But I think Connor has progressed greatly. I think he's a good quarterback. Like I said, I'm extremely excited about our quarterback position. We've got 4 guys. They have a big-time talent. They have talent. They can throw the ball 60 yards and they can put it on a rope. What they do, though, in terms of decision-making and creativity will define them.
Mark, you had mentioned the other day about the receivers having some drops early in the first couple of practices. Is that something that you had mentioned earlier about developing confidence? Is it something physical with them, or is it just more mental?
Well, I said that after the first practice. Second practice, they had a great day. Today's practice, I thought they played very well. I see McGarrett King's making catches. I think DeAnthony Arnett's making catches. Tony Lippett looks good out there. Fowler looks good. Guys get nicked up, hamstring here, a little tweak there, but I thought Burbage has caught the ball well. So I've been excited about our wideouts. They're catching the ball well. They've caught the ball well two straight days, and good route running. If you come out there and you watch practice, if you watch ABCs, you guys can assess that. You can assess their catching ability and their movement and things of that nature, and they look like a Big Ten football player, and I think they do. They got to make the plays out here.
Coach, I know it's still early, but what have you seen from tight end? And do you expect, 1 or 2 guys to sort of settle in there, or do you, expect sort of a bigger rotation at that spot this year?
Early on, so we're one day into we just started putting our hands on people today, really. So I mean, that's key. I mean, they can catch the ball and things of that nature, but they got to get movement. They got to do the things they have to do in terms of run blocking and some of those type of things. But they're just young. We're young. We're young at that position. So we'll be fine. We'll grow.
First of all, can you talk about Geiger, how he's done? You said you wanted to get some pressure on him early. Has that happened? And then Andre Sims obviously does punt returns, but has he done anything in the slot?
Yeah. Geiger's looked good. I don't think he's missed yet. We pushed him in there with the ones to put pressure on him. And he's kicked with the ones, and he's alternating with the ones. He and Cronin sort of rolling back and forth with the ones. Cronin's been pretty good, but I would say after this morning's practice, I would say Geiger's the guy right now. But, like I said, 3 practices in. He's still got to prove it, but he's got a strong leg. He's got good technique, and he seems poised. Cronin's been good as well. And AJ's looked good in the slot. AJ's going to catch the football. Got to do the other things sometimes a little bit, get loose, block, those type of things, but he's going to catch the football very consistently. And, again, another guy's 3rd year in. So, very functional. Knows the situation. He's got to get loose on the outside sometimes, but he can catch the football, and he's about business. Buddy, good?
Mark, over here.
Yeah.
How would you say you've evolved as a head coach after your first 6 years here?
Well, so in my 7th year, yeah. Read the Bible, that's the word for completion, number for completion, so we'll find out.
That's where you look, you know, that's where you look. And also,
I don't know, you guys can assess that. You know, I feel more comfortable. I feel more comfortable, I guess, allowing our, hopefully I don't micromanage as much as a position coach or as a coordinator. You know, I tend to try and go over and watch the offensive line, which if you're a defensive back coach, the offensive line is far away. It's on the other side of the world. You have to cross a whole ocean to get there. Okay, but try to do that, try to be in different meetings, you know, where I'm not, you know, where I'm not the expert in that meeting. So hopefully I grow with doing that, and I try and put myself in situations where I'm not feeling too comfortable as well, like press conferences.
You find yourself a little more hands-off now than you were at the start?
I don't know if hands-off is the term, but you know, for example, I was with the DBs today because that's where I always try, and that's, you know, there's a magnet with those guys. It just pulls me over there. But you know, I just think that maybe I'm progressing a little bit. I can't watch every snap of film from every single practice. It's not possible. I've sort of given up a little bit and said, what's the most important thing that I need to do as a head coach? And I do that, and then I have a, you know, sort of a list where I go down.
And also, you were equating a year ago to losing by inches. Mm-hmm. Is that the hardest jump to make for a program, that last inch?
I don't know. You know, we've had some different years. You know, I think we've come here in 07, we lost by some inches. You know, if you look back to 07, you know, we lost in double overtime to Iowa, and, you know, so there's some close games I remember. And then after we bounced back in 08, and in 09 we lost on some very close games as well. You know, Iowa, Central Michigan. You know, I don't even want to talk about them. Okay, but then we bounced back again. So this is a very competitive game, and I think that the competitiveness is pretty equal. I mean, you know, one thing can sort of spin the game your way, turnover or whatever, a decision, whatever it is. So, you know, I don't know if I'm answering the question, to be honest with you. I just know that we're going to move forward. I feel like we have an edge to us. Are the inches the toughest? Yeah, but, you know, there's a light at the end of that tunnel. We're close. We've been close. We've been very close. When you look at us as a program, we played, you know, in the last game in the season, 3 of the 6 years, we got a chance to win the Big Ten championship. That's all I can tell you. One time we're co, 2 other times, one we would have been co, another one would have won it outright. So, but there's still room to grow for certain. But we're not a dead horse.
Not a dead horse?
No.
Mark, at center and guard, what are you set on, and what are you still looking to have develop in that area of your line?
I think depth. We're looking to develop depth, which we have. I think we're set that Travis Jackson, Blake Treadwell, and probably Jack Allen are in there. Pretty good fixtures in there, good football players. I think Dan France can move in there. Jack can play center. You know, Donovan Clark can play in there. You know, Connor Cruz has been in and out a little bit, but we've got some different pieces we can move around there a little bit. I think that helps us. And I think Cody Keeler's a guy, and Jack Conklin's a guy that's got tremendous upsides. I think Henry Conway's a guy that's had a good spring and came back in shape for this summer. And, you know, he's a huge man, 6'6", 6'7", 320 something. So, I mean, who knows? He's in his 5th year, and he can be a good football player. So, you know, a guy that benches 400 plus pounds and jumps 27 inches at that size is pretty good. So we got some guys. It's just a matter of staying healthy and finding the right sort. You know, Foe can go in there a little bit at center some, so, you know, we got a couple. Blake's played center, Kyle Lentz played center, so we've got some guys that have played center in there, 4 or 5 guys. But I think you can't practice all those guys in there. I think you have to decide and sort of say, okay, these are our 1s and 2s and et cetera. But I'm happy with the depth in there. We know what we're doing. Do we have to do it better? Yes. We always do. To fullbacks, tight ends, part of all this. Play selection, concept, part of all of it. Maturity.
Mark, you came off a 6-7 season and followed up with two 11-win seasons, and this year you're coming off a 7-win season. Is there something you can take from that season that you had the 6 wins to get to the 11 wins for 2 consecutive seasons that you can apply with this group and with this team and use that to maybe bounce back and get into double-digit wins again?
Yeah, I think there is. You always learn. You always learn from your, as I said earlier, you always learn from your successes or your failures or whatever it is. Your experiences sort of drive you. So what I've learned is we're resilient. We'll come to play. That our emotions will be high. That our players understand. And again, if your seniors, no one put pressure on the seniors, but if your seniors had their best year, which is what our 2011 seniors did, they had their very best year in their time here, you got a chance to have a great football team. And that's what happened. That's what happened in 2011, and that's what we look to have happen here in 2013. And I think our players generally have that mindset and carry themselves as such. Darquez Denard, Isaiah Lewis, Tanikos Allen, Max Bulla, Tyler Hoover, Kaja Reynolds, all seniors. On the offense, Blake Treadwell, Maxwell's certainly a senior, Fowler's a senior, Dan France is a senior, Finotti's a senior. So we've got a little bit of experience. Those are just guys right off the top of my head. We also have Kyler Ellsworth and Denzel Drone. So we've got a lot of guys. Oh. Always got to have my, see, I was recording all you guys. Okay. I don't think I have a sense of humor. All right, next.
Mark, other side there.
Yeah.
What is it about Riley Bullock that tells you that he could be your guy at running back? What is it that he does maybe that stands out? Or
He's a hard driver. That's what he is. He's a football player. Made a great catch in the first day of practice, got great hands, pass protects, runs with authority, trains for it, worked towards it, watched film for it. He just is going to drive forward. And he's going to make himself whatever it is. If he was going to be the Mike linebacker, that's the same way he was going to approach that. If we put him at a different position, that's the way he'd approach that. And, he's just a football player in the mold of his brother and probably in the mold of his dad that is just going to find a way and try and be very, very exact in the way he goes about his business and attacking. I think Nick Hill and Langfors had a good day, both had a good day of practice today. And we've got some young players, Shelton and Holmes and Delton Williams, that look pretty good out there too. Nick Tompkins sort of tweaked a little bit of the leg, so we held him out. But we've got some guys there. Got to make plays.
Mark, you referenced it today as well as in Chicago and on practice or at practice on Saturday that the players as well as the coaches this year have an edge about them. Mm-hmm. Can you just be a little bit more specific and maybe elaborate on what that edge is or what the edginess is?
Oh, that edge could be a lot of things. It could be not very tolerant. It could be a little bit snappy at times. It could be a little bit more hitting. It could be player in the film room a little extra. Could be that coach keeping his players a little extra, whether it be in the weight room or whatever. But, I mean, that edge is just the feeling that things got biased last year and they shouldn't have. That's the edge. That edge is we're 7-6. We were 7-6 in 2007. We've grown since then. That's not the expectation. And I think it's just the way that people are approaching whatever they're doing, I guess, is the best way I could say.
Fullback, could you talk about what you're seeing there out of guys? Obviously no pads, and that's where those guys really come in and thump, but what are you seeing as far as...
I think Palzetti's healthy. It looks like he's healthy. And Pendleton, those two guys are sort of locked in there a little bit. And obviously after that, we're sort of in a tight end, more of a tight end mode a little bit. We got some different guys we're experimenting with as well. So, but a little too soon to say that because of the nature of the plays that we've had in relative to what those guys have to do.
Not familiar with all the new wave terms, being so old, but one of your players said he had the bubble guts.
Had
You
the
know,
what?
The bubble guts. I guess that means anxious for the season.
Okay.
What happens to you when the calendar turns August? Do you get the bubble guts, or does something happen when you get on the field with your team?
I get excited because it's a newness. It's always new. I'm always interested in seeing, hey, I know what that guy can do. Put the freshman in there. Let's see what he can do. I go down, I want to watch a freshman. I want to watch some new things we're doing. I want to see how that redshirt freshman is bouncing back, and now that he's ready to play, you know, a Tyler O'Connor or, you know, just a redshirt freshman out there. You know, how they're going to assess the situation, how they're going to be able to move forward. So I get a little excited about that, and it's always new. There's always new things that you can try, and there's always, you know, for a year we play the games, and then from that period on, we start preparing for the next season. We start preparing for August, whether that's winter conditioning, whether that's spring workouts, even with recruiting, we're preparing for August. We're preparing what's going to happen in August. And so when August comes, it's a little bit like open up your presents and see what's there. A little bit like that. So I get excited every year, and that's one of the beautiful things I think about what I do for a living is that things change. You know, you're sort of always going through different cycles of the year, and everything means a little bit something different.